Hi, this is a recording of how to read a textbook. I know you all know how to read a textbook already, but this is how to read a textbook better and more efficiently. Now, your textbook publishers have spent a lot of time and money researching how to most efficiently read a textbook. And they have designed the textbook accordingly. And if you know what they had in mind when they did this, this means you can read the textbook to get the most out of it in the least amount of time, which I'm sure is something you all want to do, right? So how to read this textbook and how to maximize your efficiency and effectiveness when you're studying from this textbook. So the system that your publishers had in mind is called SQRRR. There's no L, but it reminds you of squirrels anyway, if that helps you remember. There are a lot of these different acronyms for different ways to read, but this is the one that this publisher was using when they designed your textbook. So it has 5 steps. You might have heard before that you have to have something repeated 7 times to really remember it. And we all know you are not going to read the textbook 7 times. I don't want you to. That would be a form of torture, right? But if you go over things, the most important points, several times, you will remember them better. And it's actually most efficient and most effective to go over them differently each time you do it, right? Instead of reading the book 7 times or even 3 times, reading the book different ways each time, getting the information into your head a little bit differently with each iteration. So the SQRRR stands for survey, question, read, recite, and review. Now, you probably have heard about different learning styles, like auditory learners learn best by hearing, visual learners learn best from pictures, kinesthetic learners learn best by doing. You may even know which of those learning styles you are. I actually think personally, I think there are more than 3 learning styles, but using different senses and different ways of learning is more effective than just using one all the time. Now, unfortunately, the way college is set up, it kind of favors people who learn by listening to lectures and people who learn by reading. But that doesn't mean that's the way you have to study. So let's talk about each one of these steps. The first step, of course, is survey. Here's the cute little kid from Up, the Disney movie, with his binoculars. Survey is when you look over, with your binoculars, you look over the chapter or whatever passage you're going to read and get a general idea of the lay of the land. You get the big picture of what the chapter is going to be about. Now, if you were reading a book because you were actually seeking information, like, I don't know, you're looking for a book about how to build a deck, and you're standing there in the hardware store looking at the books. Yeah, they have books at hardware stores. Yeah. And they, all the different books, you're trying to decide which one of these should I buy, which one's going to give me the information I need. You're going to survey the books. You're going to look at the cover. You're going to flip through, look at the pictures, the chapter headings, maybe the table of contents. You're going to look at the things that are in bold to get an idea of what you're about to read. This is just natural reading behavior, but make sure you do this with each chapter when you read your textbook. Now, I'm not actually going to force you to do this for every chapter in the book, but humor me, try this, do it for the first chapter in the textbook, see if all or part of the system helps you, and then after that, you can use the parts that you found most useful. But humor me, we're going to do this on the first chapter. So you're going to survey that first chapter. Now, this is a picture of a couple pages in your textbook. You can see there's a photo, there are things pulled out in a colored box. You do not get to skip the stuff in the colored box. Actually, if it's in color like that and blocked off in a separate box, it means it's extra important. Do not skip those parts. And then if you look, you can see there's a big red heading. In this case, it says energy and the environment. There are smaller headings that say things like legislating to protect the environment and local economies. Those are smaller headings. Look at the big bold headings, look at the pictures and their captions, look at the charts. At the beginning of each chapter in your book, there is a very short outline for the whole chapter. At the end of each chapter, there is a short summary of the chapter. Now, don't try to just read the summary and skip the rest of the chapter. But skim over it, get the big picture in your head of what this chapter is going to be about. If you're looking at this chapter in the photograph, you would say, okay, this is about Obama. Clearly the environment and legislation relating the environment is a big part of Obama's administration, so I need to pay extra attention to that. That leads us to our next step. Question. Before you read something ordinarily, you are seeking information. If you are trying to figure out how do I build a deck, what supplies do I need, what tools do I need, do I know what I'm doing well enough to do this on my own, you would already have questions in mind before you start reading. If you are reading for a specific question, you read faster and you read more efficiently. This helps counteract that thing that I think we've probably all done this with textbooks, where you would swear that your eyes touched every word on the page, but when you get to the bottom of the page, you don't remember any of it because you're so zoned out and bored. Well, if you have a specific question in mind, it helps focus your reading. It naturally, without any conscious effort, makes you read faster, and it helps you focus on the most important points. So you should have questions in mind before you read the chapter. Now, I'm going to give you questions for some of the chapters, either like 5 short questions, like what were Obama's energy policies? That's just an example. Or an essay question. I'm so sorry, I did not silence my phone. Bad teacher, no Apple. Okay, so if you have specific questions in mind that I've given you, they might be the short 5 questions, or it might be an essay question like what were the most important policies that Obama achieved during his administration? Okay, that's kind of a lousy question, but that's just an example. So as you're reading the chapter, you have questions in mind. I suggest that you read what the questions are on the homework, whether it's 5 short questions or 1 essay question, that you read that question before you read the book so that your reading is focused and more efficient. And you can pay attention to the most important parts. This is a hint. The stuff that I ask you questions about is the stuff that I think is most important. That's the stuff that's most likely to come up on the quizzes. That's a hint. So you should read the questions before you read the chapter. So after you have questions in mind, the next step is read. Aw, cute kitten picture. Aw. Sorry, I tried to make this as interesting as possible, but honestly, this SQRRR stuff is probably the most boring topic we're going to talk about all semester. But hey, we're almost done. So then you actually read the chapter. Don't try to read every word. Try to get the big picture. Yeah, you're probably reading most of the words, but you're looking for answers to your questions. You're trying to see how the details of the chapter fit in with those big headings you saw before when you surveyed, how they fit in with the outline at the beginning of the chapter, how the different details fit together. You're kind of trying to plug individual little facts into an outline in your head. Memorizing individual facts doesn't actually help you understand things. To understand things, you need to also look at the big picture. So when you're reading, try to see how those little tiny component parts fit together into a coherent whole. And of course, focus on finding the answers to those questions. Next step, recite. This is my foster dog. His name is Titus. He thinks he's a big ferocious wolf. He is barking his head off in this picture, so it's kind of a picture of somebody reciting. Reciting means once you found the answers to the questions, you're supposed to say them out loud. Now, you probably aren't really going to do that. Your family members might think you're a little strange if you do, But hey, if that helps you remember, then totally go ahead and recite the answers. When you find the answers, you're going to write them down, type them in, get ready to answer your homework questions, but you're repeating the answers to yourself. And remember, I've already told you, the questions are focusing you on the most important part. So those answers are some of the most important things in the chapter. Of course, you're going to put the answers in your own words. You're not just going to copy word for word from the textbook. A second grader could copy a paragraph out of the textbook. That does not mean they understand it. That does not mean they're going to remember it. You're going to put it in your own words. Never quote the textbook. The textbook isn't even written that well. I'm sure you could come up with something way more eloquent and probably more brief and clear than the textbook. So you're going to recite your answers out loud if that works for you, but at least write them down. Then the last step is review. Here's Belle from Disney's Beauty and the Beast reading. I don't recommend that you actually read while you're walking down the street singing. Probably not a super safe thing to do. But you're going to skim over the whole chapter again. Hopefully you found the answers to your questions. You're going to skim over the whole chapter and make sure, do I remember reading this part? Did I understand this part? If there's a big heading like Obama's energy legislation, do you know what that is? And that little box, that little colored box in the picture I showed you, it mentioned the EPA. Do you know what the EPA is? If not, maybe you need to read that part of the chapter again. So at this point when you're reviewing, you should know what the most important parts are, and you should more or less remember everything and see how everything fits together. This review should have you focus on the big parts of the chapter. This isn't reading every detail again. When you get to the end of the chapter, there's that summary at the end. It's just a couple paragraphs long. If there's anything in there you don't remember or you don't understand, you need to go back and look at it again. So if you do the survey, question, read, recite, review, you will have gone over the key most important points of the chapter 5 times. You are well on your way to remembering them. And is this not better than reading the whole chapter like 5 times? So this is designed to help you remember. Oh, my GIF doesn't work. Oops, oh well. Well, that was supposed to be the GIF of, from The Lion King, Mufasa saying to Simba, remember. The whole point of this exercise is to help you focus on the most important parts and remember them, get them in your head as efficiently as possible. If you choose not to do this in later chapters, that's fine, but try it on this first chapter, see which parts of it work best for you. And remember, your textbook is written with this kind of reading strategy in mind. That's what the big headings are for. That's why there are so many pictures. You ever wonder why you have to pay so much for a book when it has all these pictures? I mean, yeah, the pictures are pretty, but they're there for a reason. They help emphasize the most important points, and they help people like me. I'm a very visual learner. I remember the pictures better than the words. When I'm taking a test, I'll be like, ooh, okay, I can almost see it. It was on the same page as that map of the Louisiana Purchase. Oh yes, now I remember the answer. Visual learner. So of course, I love pictures in my PowerPoints, as you can tell. Other people, maybe they'll think, oh, yeah, I was muttering this to myself out loud. What was it? Oh, yeah. Sometimes you can see students when they're taking a test, their lips move when they're trying to remember, or they're looking at something imaginary like they're seeing the textbook. I've even seen students who are doing this because they're reminding themselves of what they wrote down. Kinesthetic learners often do well if they write stuff down, if they take notes over the textbook, if they take notes over the lectures. Some people, my husband is a kinesthetic learner. He's one of those people who really benefited when the teacher made you write your spelling words 10 times each. He can write stuff down on the grocery list, totally lose the list, but he'll remember what was on the list because he went through that process of writing it down. If you're one of those people, then you know you need to take notes to learn stuff. If you know that you're an auditory learner, listening to a recording, saying the answers out loud, that's going to work way better for you than other techniques. So you need to figure out by this point in your academic career, Figure out what kind of learner you are, what techniques work best for you, and then use those techniques to study most effectively and most efficiently. So I hope this is helpful for you. If it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it after this first chapter, but try it for this chapter. And of course, if you have questions while you're working on the homework, you can email me, you can call me, you know how to get a hold of me. Don't hesitate, even if it's the first assignment and you don't want to ask for help on the first assignment. Yeah, it's way better to ask for help than do all the work and do it wrong. All right, good luck with your first assignment.